Can see me just fine on the Instagram. Hopefully everybody can see me just fine on the Instagram. Looks like we're having just a little bit of few lighting issues on Instagram. Looks like Facebook, we're doing pretty good. So hopefully everybody can see just fine. And thank you everyone for joining. All right, so welcome to the show Money Talks, where all we talk is money. Sorry for those technical glitches there. All right, shout out to everybody listening. We're streaming live today on Facebook and Instagram. So we're live on Facebook and Instagram. Welcome to the show Money Talks, where all we talk is money. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. And happy month of March, by the way. Happy new month. A new month means a new beginning. So with that being said, my name is Jeff Badu. I'm a parallel entrepreneur and a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. And what we do is we provide a suite of financial services, including our marquee company, which is Badu Tax Services. And that's the firm that provides tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses across all 50 states in the U.S., and we also have clients in over 25 countries at the moment. We also have Badu Investments LLC, which is our real estate investment company. Then we have Badu Life and Health Solutions LLC, which is our life and health insurance company. And then we lastly have a Badu Foundation, which provides financial literacy education to the youth ages 6 to 18. And we teach them on topics such as budgeting, saving, investing, and scholarships. My purpose in life is to inspire and support the super hungry to take hold of infinite resources in order to create an abundant lifestyle. So welcome everyone. We're live on Facebook and Instagram. Hopefully everybody can see me just fine on the Instagram camera. Hopefully it's not too dark or anything like that. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Today is Monday, March 7th, 2022. It is a new month, new beginning. Real quick, next week, we will still be on Facebook Live with the Chicago Urban League. So we'll be starting sooner next week at 6 p.m. Central. Instead of 7 p.m., we'll be live at 6 p.m. Central on Monday, next Monday. And that's with the Chicago Urban League. That's a class, that's a cohort group that I teach once a quarter or so. So we'll be live next Monday at essentially, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central. So we will not be doing the usual Money Talks at 7 p.m. Central next Monday. Instead, it will be next, essentially, it will be at 6 p.m. next Monday. And then tomorrow I will be on IG Live with a credit repair group. I'll be on IG Live with a credit repair group, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Central. So 8 p.m. Central, I'll be getting on IG Live, and we're actually hosting an event that's coming up very, very soon, and we would love everybody to attend that. So today's topic is how to create infinite wealth in retirement, right? You've always heard about, hey, you should be saving for retirement. You should be putting money away. Well, today we're going to talk about how to do that, right? How much you should be putting away and the various ways that we can do so. All right, so before we get into that, we got a market report. This is as of March 4th, 2022. There's a lot to cover in this report. Prayers out to the folks in Ukraine, right? Prayers out to the folks in Ukraine. I know there's a big war going on between Russia and Ukraine right now, basically Russia and the rest of the world. And so definitely prayers out to them. Hopefully everybody's families are safe, right? Everybody is in a sheltered place where it is safe. And when I first heard of this war, I'm like, man, anything can happen on this planet. So it's like, what are you doing today to fulfill your dreams today, right? Or what are you doing today to fulfill the dreams of tomorrow that you may have? So all that to say is time waits for no man or woman. Time waits for no man or woman. Anything can happen at this present moment. What will you do today to get to the next level today or in the future? The main question is, what will you do today, right? Today, on March 7th, Monday, March 7th, 2022, what will you do today to get you to the next level? That's a question everybody should be asking themselves. Have you protected your families, right? Are you in a position where if something crazy were to happen in the world, would you be able to withstand it? Are you prepared financially? Are you prepared financially? Right? So these are questions you have to ask yourself. Of course, nobody can predict what can happen, right? Nobody can predict what can happen in the future. But what you can do is prepare for some of the things that may happen in the future. All right, so with that, let's talk about the report as of March 4th, 2022. It's a very loaded report, so apologies for going a little over. We'll maybe spend about 7 minutes. Let's do 7 minutes on the report today. And then at 7:20 Central, we'll go ahead and start the topic. All right, shout out to Danielle Mitchell. Listen live on IG. Shout out to Danielle. All right, so Wall Street was hit hard last week as traders moved from stocks to bonds and gold. Each of the benchmark indexes essentially lost value, with the global Dow dropping more than 4%, and NASDAQ, which is mainly composed of technology stocks, declining nearly 3%. The Russian escalation of the war in Ukraine eclipsed strong economic data at home, including solid jobs report. The crisis in Ukraine has boosted commodities, particularly crude oil prices, which rose more than 25% last week. Crude oil prices have gone up 25% last week due to the war in Ukraine right now. All right. Russia is one of the biggest producers of crude oil. So if you see gas prices getting higher at the tank, it's because of the war that's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said he would support a 25 basis point, 0.25 that is, interest rate increase in March as inflation has continued to soar. So what the Federal Reserve does, the Federal Reserve is the group that controls monetary policy, aka interest rates. What they can do is, as inflation is going up, they're looking to tone it down a bit by making money harder to access so that you're not out splurging all the time, causing inflation. Inflation is caused when demand is really high and or supply is really low. The problem with the Fed is they're not really solving the real problem. They're solving only the demand problem. The bigger problem is the supply problem. If some of these folks were to actually sit down and think through some of the things that they're really doing, they would realize that our big problem is not the demand, right? Our big problem is supply. Supply is our real problem. I mean, look at what's going on in the Russia-Ukraine war right now. The reason why gas prices are going up is not because more people need gas. It's simply because there's a shortage of gas supply. That's all it is. What happens when you have a shortage of something? Then naturally the price goes up. It's simple supply and demand, right? Supply and demand economics. So with that being said, gas prices are high right now because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So if you have anybody to blame the Russia-Ukraine war for your higher gas prices. I've heard talks about people buying bikes this summer. Hey, it may not be a bad idea. At least it make you fit. Maybe that's a trend that one of these companies may start promoting. Hey, gas prices too high. Here's a bike that you can ride all summer long. All right. So, just something to happen. And notice how this Russia-Ukraine thing happened, quote unquote, after the pandemic, which we're still in the pandemic technically. Right. But after the masks were lifted off, the restrictions, next thing you know, a war happens right after. And I'm like, man, was this all planned? Right? How is it that something bad happens right after something that just ended? Quote unquote. It's still here, by the way. The COVID-19 disease/pandemic is still here. It's not actually gone. So hopefully nobody's really letting their guard down per se. But instead just becoming more conscious, right? More conscious. And also maybe just taking it a bit easier, right? Just taking it a bit easier. The masks are getting pulled off and everything like that. So perhaps maybe it's time to be able to go to certain places you couldn't go to. Maybe it's time to actually go out and live life a bit. Who knows? I mean, nowadays you never know what can happen. All I do know is this. You can choose to enjoy life today if you want it today. Or you can let problems like the war, you can let COVID-19, inflation, and all these things hold you down, set you back from what it is you're looking to do on this planet. All right, my advice, follow your dreams, follow your aspirations, do whatever it takes that makes you happy, right? Do whatever you can that makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, you control your own happiness. Nobody controls your happiness for you. There's a lot of noise going on in the world right now. My advice is essentially make sure that you're aware of what's going on, but don't get too bogged down. Don't let that control the things that you do. All right, so that's my advice of the day. Let's talk about what happened last Monday. Last Monday, stocks closed mixed last Monday as investors consider more sanctions against Russia. Right, so Russia has a lot of sanctions against them. Everybody's against Vladimir Putin right now, and nobody knows what he's truly capable of. He could probably turn into a rocket and blow up the world. Who knows? All right, which responded by putting its nuclear, speaking of blowing up, nuclear forces on high alert. High alert. These words don't really sound too good to me. I mean, that lets me know that we have better gotten ready. You know, we have better gotten ready to go to war. Because technically Russia is fighting the whole world right now. All right, so you might want to think about investing in things like maybe a bulletproof vest. You may want to get your concealed carry license. You may want to do something that will protect you and your family, right? You may want to do these things. I'm just saying, when I hear the words that responded, right, basically, stocks closed mixed last Monday as investors considered more sanctions against Russia, which responded by putting its nuclear forces on high alert. When I hear words like that, that lets me know that, hey, whatever I had, whatever protection I have, let me maybe double that protection, right? Because anything can happen right now. The large caps of the Dow and the S&P 500 fell 0.5% and 2% respectively, while the NASDAQ went up 0.4%. And then the Russell 2000 went up 0.4%. S&P 500, by the way, is composed of the top 500 companies in the U.S. All right, so let's see what happens. The Russian central bank raised interest rates to 20%. Holy cow. The Russian central bank raised interest rates to 20%. 20% as the ruble plunged following additional sanctions imposed by Western countries. The United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom, and Canada pledged to exclude certain large Russian banks from the SWIFT interbank messaging network. Talks between representatives of Russia and Ukraine ended with no deal on a potential ceasefire as conflict intensified throughout the day. All right, so they're looking to do a ceasefire, some sort of agreement, right? Some sort of agreement where they're basically saying, hey, we'll take over one of your cities or one of your places, right? Russia's saying this, or maybe a few, right? We'll take a few of your cities, right, or your states, and in exchange, we'll cease fire, right? We'll take it, we'll claim it as Russian territory. I mean, this is basically a gang war, to be honest. I mean, this is like a legal gang war, the way that I see it, where Vladimir Putin is basically looking to take over territories in Ukraine, right? And for those who don't know, some of the things where you are essentially involved in activities like, let's say, a gang, right? Part of that is taking over different territories. So the way that I see it, this is a fight, a legal war amongst countries. That's all it is. You know, so you do have to be careful out there, and you have to watch your surroundings. Don't let it necessarily hold you back from your dreams and your goals, but you do have to be a bit cautious when you're doing certain things. All right, so let's talk about last Tuesday. Domestic crude oil prices vaulted past $105, $105 per barrel, right, for gas. Last Tuesday, sending domestic and global stocks tumbling. Treasury yields went down 1.7%, marking their worst four-day drop since last December. Investors could view surging oil prices, rising inflation, and intensifying Russian-Ukraine crisis as threats to economic growth, right? Threats to economic growth. All right, so let's talk about Wednesday. Wednesday, crude oil prices, treasury yields, and stocks climbed higher last Wednesday. The Russell 2000 jumped 2.5%. S&P 500 went up 1.9%. The Dow went up 1.8%, and then the Nasdaq went up 1.6%. All right, so basically everything went up. Crude oil prices went up to $111.51 per barrel. All right. In addition, rising oil prices, aluminum jumped to an all-time high, and wheat climbed to its highest price since 2008. A lot of things are getting to their highest point since 2008. All right. Last Thursday, stocks erased most of the gains from the previous day. A decline in tech shares dragged down the equity market, while the Nasdaq, which is composed mainly of technology stocks, Nasdaq went down 1.6%. 1.6%. Russell 2000 went down 1.3%. All right. And then oil went up to 108.36 per barrel. Last Friday, we did have a strong labor report, so that's always good news. Russell 2000, though, dropped nearly 2%. Nasdaq went down 1.7%, and the S&P 500 went down 0.8%. 0.8%. All right, so far this year, the Dow Jones is down 7.49%. 7.49%. The Nasdaq, which is composed mainly of technology stocks, is down 14.90%. 14.90%. The S&P 500, which is composed of the top 500 companies in the U.S., is down 9.18%. 9.18% so far this year. The Russell 2000 is down 10.89%. 10.89%. By the way, if you're invested into the S&P 500 and you had $1 million invested, that means you would have lost about $100,000. Now, that's not to discourage you. I'm just giving you numbers, right? Just giving you figures, demonstrations. All right. But had you had that $1 million and it went up like it did last year, about 25%, you would have made $250,000 on your $1 million. All right. That's a pretty sweet gain. And keep in mind, the market has gone up more than it's gone down. It has gone up more than it's gone down. All right. Over the past 100 years, I believe it's gone down maybe 90 times, 90 years, and down 10 years. All right. And this may be 2022, just maybe one of those years where it actually goes down. All right. Interest rates are still at 0%. So if you're looking to refinance a mortgage or you're looking to get into a new home or buy a home, this might be a good time for you to lock in an interest rate, because interest rates will be going up in the next week or so. Right? The Fed has talked about hiking a lot of different times this year. It's crazy. All right, so let's see here. 10-year treasuries are 1.72%. What to look forward to this week in this crazy world that we live in right now, where the only thing constant is change. The economic impact of the Eastern European conflict will continue to be felt here in the U.S. and globally. All right. Not only are traders paying close attention to the economic outlook resulting from the war, but they must also keep an eye on the upcoming Federal Reserve meeting, particularly in light of the latest developments in Ukraine. All right. So it's saying here, not only are traders paying close attention to the economic outlook resulting from the war, but they must also keep an eye on the upcoming Federal Reserve meeting, particularly in light of the latest developments in Ukraine. So, man, to be honest, sometimes I feel like some people may feel like their head is about to explode because of all the noise, all the things going on in the world. My advice to you is, number one, Make sure that whatever game plan you set, number one, make sure whatever vision you set for yourself, follow that path. Like, keep going at it. Number two, stay aware. Stay alert, stay aware, but do not let it hinder you from getting to your goals. Number three, don't let the fact that the stock market is down and all these things are happening, don't let that discourage you from investing. I would still say that you're better off investing than throwing your money in the bank, right? You're still better off investing than throwing your money in the bank. Remember, there's different types of investments, which we'll talk about today. There's different types of investments, right? There's the stock market, there's real estate, there's a crypto market, there's oil. I mean, oil, if you got oil right now, you're sitting pretty good right now. I mean, your oil, your prices, your stock, like whatever you have, the oil, it's going up in value like crazy. Imagine if you have all those barrels of oil just somewhere. That becomes a very, very in high demand commodity. All right. And then what about gold? Gold is also perhaps an investment, a good investment. Life insurance, especially one where it's indexed and it's protected against market downturns. So you should not be saying, oh, let me pull out all my money from investments. That is literally one of the silliest things you can do. Instead, think about how can you get more money into the market, right? And essentially still staying alert and making sure that you're doing whatever you can today to achieve your goals today and tomorrow. All right, so that's my advice for you. So with that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in. We're streaming live today on Facebook and Instagram. We are in the home office, right? We're not on the WJC 98.3 FM today. Next week, next Monday, we'll be starting at 6 p.m. Central. And we'll be speaking to the Chicago Urban League about accounting for your money, accounting and finances. All right, next Monday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central. So we will not be starting at 7 p.m. Central. We will not be doing money talks next Monday. Instead, we'll be speaking to the Chicago Urban League from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. All right, so let's talk about retirement. I mean, with all the wars and all the pandemic, interest rates expected to go up, inflation, I mean, like literally heads are almost feeling like they need to explode at this point. How can you even stay really focused when all this noise is going on in the world? Number one, you need to set goals. You need to have a vision. You need to say, I want to do X, Y, Z, these three things this year or next year. All right, you got to set a vision. One thing you might want to start thinking about is how do you want your retirement to look like? How does an abundant retirement look like? What does an abundant lifestyle mean to you? Right? What does an abundant lifestyle mean to you? Now, I know some people are probably on here like, oh, I may never retire. I may get blown up. Right? Some people may be thinking that. But what about the generations that come after you? What about them? And then some people might say, oh, who cares about them? They're in the future. Then I'm like, really? Is that really what you want to be known for? Someone who left nothing on this planet? If you leave nothing, you'll be remembered for nothing, right? They might burn you instead of bury you. They might burn you instead of bury you because you were a burden on this planet. Let's just let that soak in for a minute. If you're not really living on this planet, what are you doing? If you're not truly out to achieve abundance, what are you really doing? Are you just existing? Are you merely existing? Are you actually living? Right? Or actually living? Shout out to Desi, who is on IG Live. She says, true, that's what I think about every day. Absolutely, my generations. Absolutely. Do things that will continue on 1,000 generations after you leave this planet. That's what it's all about. We've been in wars before, right? Civil War, Cold War, World War. This may be World War, quote unquote, 3. I believe we've already had World War 3, which is COVID-19. This may be World War 4, World War 4. We've had pandemics before. We've had the Spanish flu, swine flu, right? We've had COVID-19 pandemic. We've had we've gone through everything imaginable on this planet, right? Ebola, everything, right? Everything has happened on this planet. Now, some of you may not be religious or read the Bible, but one thing that I've learned is that God himself said he would never destroy the planet again. He would never, ever do that again. He did it once because people were disobedient, but he said he would never, ever do that again. And that lets me know that no matter what wars we go through, no matter what pandemics we go through, no matter what inflation we go through, people will still be here, right? And things are going to move in the right direction, no matter what. All right? So no matter what happens, as long as you keep your head up and as long as you do what you got to do to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, you'll be perfectly fine. All right? Now, let me go back to the earlier point. Should you protect yourself? Should you maybe gear up on some protection, right? We'll use the word protection here. I think so. Nothing wrong with protecting yourself. Nothing wrong with protecting your family. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Hey, it's better to be safe than sorry. I'll tell you that much. I'd much rather be the guy where if someone were to, God forbid, try to rob me, I'd much rather be the guy who has my weapons ready than the guy who doesn't and has to fork up everything and possibly not live anymore. All right? Just saying. These are things that could happen. These are things that could happen. So one thing, and Jerry, shout out to Jerry on Facebook, he said, even if the unmentionable happens, the money can't go with us. That is true. That is very, very true. And keep in mind, wealth, right? When you have wealth, think about the Rockefellers. I mean, they got 1,000 more generations before their money ever runs out. And their money will never run out, right? But Mr. John D. Rockefeller is not on this planet. But his family is, though. And his wealth is still living 1,000 more generations after him. His family has been through wars. His family has been through, depressions. He's been through recessions. He's been through pandemics. The family's been through, you name it, they've been through it. But they're still here and they're very wealthy. They're still billionaires to this day. All right, so with that, it is very important to save for retirement. It is a very, very important thing. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Majority of the U.S. population isn't financially prepared for retirement. Nowadays, they say you need about $3 million to comfortably retire. $3 million or so to comfortably retire. I believe it's a higher number now, actually. But let's just conservatively say 3 million. Now, how is it that less than 1% of the world's population is worth $3 million? How can anybody retire, right? So I always like to go back to the point where it's not always about the money, per se. But think about it. If they're saying you need $3 million to retire, you might want to think about money a little bit. You might want to think about your financial future. Why is it that people are greeters at Walmart? To be honest, I don't think for most of them it's by choice. I think it's required. They actually are required to do that. Gas prices being so high, it's crazy. It is crazy, right? Can you imagine earning minimum wage and having to drive to work every single day? I mean, you're going to get burned. You're going to get burned, literally, because the cost of you even getting to work is very, very high. Thank God for work from home and flexibility nowadays. But at the same time, you have to be very smart and savvy with your money. Social Security benefits will be significantly depleted. In the future. They're talking about by 2033, and I believe that date has probably accelerated. Medicare and Social Security will significantly run out of funds. Not 100%, because we know it's a Ponzi scheme, right? It's not 100% going to run out, but it will basically be significantly depleted. Pensions are prehistoric. Anybody that's listening right now probably doesn't have a pension, right? I doubt that even one person listening on this call today has a pension. And it is never too early to start saving for retirement. Never too early, right? As soon as they come out the womb, start planning for their retirement, your kids. And I know not everybody has the means. I know not everybody's generating 7 figures, 8 figures, or 6 figures. By the way, the modern day, today's 6 figure is yesterday's 5 figure. Just saying, inflation is really something. Today's 6 figure is yesterday's 5 figure. Today's 6 figure is yesterday's 5 figure. Today's 7 figure is yesterday's 6 figure, right? So at the end of the day, it is never too early to start saving for retirement. Inflation. Things get more expensive over time. Your purchasing power of your money diminishes over time if it's not growing, if you're not investing it. And I know the stock market is looking very tough right now, but there's alternatives. That's where you have to be smart and savvy and know where to diversify your portfolio, right? And if you've invested over time, you're going to make money and you're going to outpace and beat inflation all day, every day anyway. All right? So that's something very important that you want to be thinking about. Now, start saving. So when do you start saving for retirement? Start saving as soon as possible. If you got kids, get them going early. If they're 7 years old and above, hire them in your business and start funding the Roth IRA individual retirement account. Get them a life insurance policy. That is a permanent policy. Get them a 529 college savings plan. Get them going on a right path. And I know not everybody has the means to do it, but you can find a way to squeeze a few dollars into a kid's college plan, right? Or college fund. You never know. You just have to dig deep into your budget each and every month. And for those that haven't started yet, but they're in college, start saving while you're in college. Start saving for retirement while you're in college. A Roth IRA, a Roth individual retirement account, one of the best accounts that you can possibly take advantage of. I personally started saving at the age of 23. I'm way behind. I am way, way behind. To the point where nowadays I have to save 20% of my income, gross income, for retirement just to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to live in retirement. By the way, when I say retirement, I want to be very crystal clear. In this sense, I'm talking about the American definition. When you hit 67, right? It used to be 65. Now it's 67. And you basically don't want to work anymore. Now, according to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad definition of retirement, it's when you're financially free. It's when you generate enough passive income to the point where your bills are paid off each month and you're funding your lifestyle, your travel, your kids, all that stuff is paid off without you having to work, physically work for the money. You're earning money passively, and everything you're working for is basically to fund your investments at that point. All right. So for me, I was able to hit that essentially at the age of 24, right? At the age of 24, where basically I no longer needed to work for money in order to sustain my lifestyle. Then there were some things that happened along the way that changed, and then it basically came right back at the age of 25. All right. Now, when I'm talking retirement, as Desi mentioned, I'm talking the 67 plus, right? The 67-year-old. I'm talking the American definition of retirement here. I'm not talking about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad definition, although everybody should be striving for that definition of retirement when you're financially free, meaning you don't have to work for money. You don't have to work for money in order to sustain your lifestyle and all the things that you want in it. All right, I'm talking about the American definition of retirement, a 67-plus-year-old, and it will be 70 by the time that, quote-unquote, retire. It'll probably be 72 by then, right? They're already thinking about moving it to 70. This is the whole Social Security Ponzi scheme that I'm talking about. They're thinking about shifting it to 70 as people are living longer and they're depleting the Social Security fund. Now we got to support Ukraine with our US dollars, right? So at this point, it's like, where are they getting this money from? They're just printing it in the back and deflating our currency, basically. All right, so start saving early. I started saving for retirement at the age of 23. I'm way behind. I should have started, on my own at the age of 18. At a minimum, I should have started saving for retirement at 18. I'm 5 years behind, basically. All right, and compound interest, as Albert Einstein said, is the most powerful force in the universe. There is nothing more powerful in the universe than compound interest. That is money that builds on top of money that's already there. All right. So as you get older, increase your savings. As you start approaching retirement, increase your savings. Typically, we recommend you save no less than 10% of your gross income. So if you generate six figures, if you generate $100,000 a year, then you should be saving at least $10,000 a year for retirement, right? And by the way, we usually use the same 10% rule for giving. So giving back to the community. And one thing to know, giving doesn't just have to be dollars. It could be time. It can be service as well, right? So maybe you want to do some calculations there. And then if you're age 50 or older, take advantage of catch-up contributions. They allow you to put more money into your retirement account. So let's talk about a few strategies here. We got about 17 more minutes to go. Shout out to _ Mr. Marshall joining us on IG Live. Shout out to Mr. Marshall. All right, so first strategy you can use is individual retirement account. This is one of the simplest ways to save for retirement. You don't need an employer's plan or anything like that. This is not a 401k, right? This is an individual retirement account, IRA, one of the best retirement vehicles on the planet. It is the new version of the 401k. It is best suited for anyone, especially those who have a job. Income that you're earning. It is extremely flexible and can be invested however way you want to invest it. All right. So there's two types of IRAs, individual retirement accounts. The first one is traditional, aka pre-tax. That means that you put in money pre-tax. You get a tax write-off when you actually put in the money. Right? You get tax deferred growth of the earnings, meaning the money can be invested into the stock market and it's tax deferred. One of the downside is when you take money out of a traditional IRA, you have to pay taxes on it, not just at your capital gains tax rates, which are favorable, but your ordinary income tax rates on both the principal and the interest, making a traditional IRA one of the worst investments on the planet. Right? You're like, oh, he came to talk about saving for retirement. But he just said one of the worst accounts on the planet is the traditional IRA. Traditional IRAs are also subject to required minimum distributions, or RMDs for short, where the government forces you to take money out of your own retirement account at the age of 72 and a half, or there's a giant penalty for not taking out the money at that age. Anytime somebody forces me to do something with my money, I usually say, no thanks. All right. Then you have the Roth IRA, the best retirement account when it comes to IRAs, in my opinion. The Roth IRA has after-tax contributions, meaning you already pay the taxes up front, right? You don't have to deal with it later. It has tax-free growth of earnings. The money grows tax-free. Very important. My two favorite words in life, as _ Mr. Marshall would note. It's tax-free. My two favorite words in life, tax-free. And then non-taxable withdrawals. When you take the money out of a Roth IRA, no taxes. Zilch, nada. No taxes whatsoever on both the principal and the growth of the money. There's no RMDs, no required minimum distributions. By the way, tax rates are set to go up in the future, right? They'll probably go up this year. So these are things that you really want to watch out for as you're planning for your retirement. By the way, never try any of this stuff at home. Seek the help of an advisor or a financial coach. We run a company called Badu Financial Fitness, LLC, and we'll be more than happy to help you with your financial goals. And you can check out our website at badufinancialfitness.com. badufinancialfitness.com. All right. So traditional IRA, who is it best suited for? Typically high earners. However, their income limits with traditional IRAs are not quite for high earners. Roth is suited for anybody. It's suited for anybody. All right. By the way, the principal in your Roth, you can take that out at any time whenever you want, basically, with no penalties or no taxes, although not recommended. You can take out money early for emergencies, significant medical expenses, buying a first home up to $10,000, or paying for school. Or maybe you want to buy an investment property that's yielding you a nice return. Maximum contribution is $6,000 each year. If you're age 50 or older, you get a catch-up extra $1,000. And that's across all your IRA accounts, so both your traditional and your Roth IRA. Roth is typically better than traditional, as stated before, because the money grows tax-free and there's no RMDs. You can start withdrawing money for any reason without penalty at age 59 and a half, right? Age 59 and a half. And you typically have until April 15th, in this case, this year it's April 18th, of the current tax year for it to count towards the previous year. So if you haven't contributed, if you're like, man, this stuff sounds good. If you haven't put your $6K into your Roth IRA account for 2021 yet, you have until April 18th of 2022 to contribute towards your Roth IRA account, right, for 2021. And then you might want to throw in something for 2022. So it is pretty sweet. All right, so that's the IRA, individual retirement account. One of the best, in my opinion, the best way to get started for retirement is the Roth IRA account. Hands down, the best. You're a college student, Roth IRA. You're a kid that's working, Roth IRA. Or you got kids that are working, Roth IRA. Right? Roth IRA, everybody, Roth IRA. Then you have the 401k. The 401k is the old school way of saving for retirement. It is still better than a pension, and it's still a great option. It does lack the flexibility and typically only limited to mutual funds, which is not a personal favorite of my own. And the same rules apply, traditional versus Roth. Iras is not so friendly when you take money out of a 401k, although you can borrow money against the 401k account, and you can create your own bank using your 401k, all right, and pay yourself back the interest. You are limited to $19,500 a year if you're single, and then you basically double that if you're married. Then for nonprofits and government employees, you use a 403b instead of a 401k. It's basically the same thing. 403b is for governments and nonprofits. 401k are for private and publicly traded companies. You can contribute up to the maximum, or you should contribute up to the maximum employer will match you. If you don't, you're basically throwing money away. So if your employer says, hey, we'll match you up to 5% of your contributions and we'll give you 50% as a boost, do it. I mean, there's no reason for you not to. For you to not to do that, you'd be leaving money on the table. If you're in a high tax bracket, contribute the maximum allowed. Start contributing ASAP, like today. If you're self-employed, you have more options to save for retirement. You can dump, basically like 60 grand into a retirement account. Unlike the 19.5 that's limited for for a 401k. All right. And then you have the health savings account, the HSA. The most overlooked account on the planet is the HSA health savings account. This provides you with triple tax benefits, meaning you have pre-tax contributions. When you put in the money, you get a tax write-off on the money. The money grows tax-free. You can put it into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, ETFs for short. And then when you take the money out, preferably in retirement for medical expenses, you don't have to pay any income taxes on that money. Very, very sweet account. You must have a high deductible medical plan, which is typically a deductible of at least $1,500 if you're single. And then you can contribute up to $3,600 a year if you're single, or one of the best tax strategies on the planet, marriage, $7,200 for married couples. You have until April 18th of the following year to make your contribution. Great way to save for retirement using your HSA. Medical expenses can be high in retirement, especially with all this inflation going on in the world. It's basically the new Medicare, because we know Medicare may not be around so much longer after this whole, basically for a while. You can withdraw funds in retirement without penalty from non-medical expenses. And you would basically treat this as a traditional 401k or IRA. All right. And this is not subject to RMDs, by the way. No required minimum distributions. If God forbid you pass away, something happens to you, the money just goes towards your beneficiary or your loved ones. All right, then you have permanent life insurance. We have a whole segment on this, so won't get too deep into the weeds. There's different types of permanent life insurance policies. There's whole life. There's universal life, aka index universal life. There's variable life, and then there's variable universal life. Basically, your account, you put in money into your account and it accumulates what we call cash value over time as you're putting in money. Cash value is money you can take out at any time in your life insurance policy. You can quote unquote borrow against the policy where you basically borrow it at a certain interest rate and you're basically paying yourself back the interest over time, just like the 401k. It's a great way to fund a child's education or your retirement. This is great for pretty much anybody. And the way these work is we can actually set you up where you don't pay any premiums after a certain period of time. For example, we have a plan called the Premium Finance Index Universal Life Insurance Policy, where you don't have to pay any premiums after year 5. After year 5, the policy is all in. It is paid up. It is paid for. You just wait and play, right? Sit back, relax, kick back, and all of a sudden watch your eggs hatch when you get into retirement or whenever you decide to take out the money. Great way to save for retirement. I personally utilize this strategy. It is one of my favorite ones on the planet. So with that being said, do something now that your future self will thank you later, and 1,000 generations that come after you. Think about the Rockefellers. Think about all the things that they've done, the wealth that they've been able to amass and accumulate. All right. You must save for retirement or you risk living in poverty. This is serious stuff. You know, if you're not saving anything for retirement, you've got a serious big problem. I can't tell you how many clients come to the firm and say, Jeff, I don't have anything saved for retirement. I only got $1,000 and I'm 57. I'm like, man, we can get you started, but it is a late start. It is a late start. It is like starting a marathon at the half, basically, where everybody else is at the halfway point and you're just starting at the starting line. All right, so that is how serious this problem can be. There's a lot of people living in poverty because they didn't save adequately when it came to retirement. So I know this is sometimes not the sexiest topic in the world where we talk 401k. Shout out to the show Love is Blind. We had a fellow who said, oh yeah, I'm not too much into 401ks. I don't like planning for the future. I'm like, well, hey, you know, you might want to be careful with that. All right. So with that being said, do something today that will benefit you tomorrow. And let this sink in for a second. Older folks, no offense, right? But older folks that are working at Walmart tend to be working there because they don't want to, but they have to. Older folks that are working at Walmart tend to be working there not because they want to, but they have to. Think about it. If you had the option to travel to the Bahamas, to Cancun, to Bora Bora, and all these nice fancy places, and you didn't have to work a single hour in your life, would you not rather want that than having to work 40, 50 hours a week greeting people at Walmart? Would you not want to have that? Now, to each his own, of course. I don't know what you're into. But I know for most people, they would much rather be living the life that they truly imagine. In good health. All their kids or grandkids are in school and college. Everybody's in good health. Everybody's got what they need. I think you would probably want to be that person. Right? I think you would want to be the rich grandpa, rich grandma. Not the grandma that is asking others for money and being a burden to the grandkids or the kids. So you really want to think about your future. You really want to think about your future. I know the world is not in the best shape right now, but the future still remains. You can't determine your future. However, I can tell you one thing, and that if you were to do something today that will benefit your future tomorrow, you're going to be in a better position. So it is very important for us to start putting money away for retirement, whether you're doing that through traditional retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks or even life insurance or real estate. Whatever floats your boat, go out and do it. Me personally, all the buckets. I need it everywhere, just in case. If one fails, boom. I got 9 others that I can lean on. If 7 fail, I got 3 that I can lean on. All right, so please be sure to protect yourself. Please be sure to be putting money away for a rainy day. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in to Money Talks, where all we talk is money. Remember, next week, we will be live at 6 p.m. Central instead of 7 p.m. We'll be talking to the Chicago Urban League about accounting for your money instead of doing a show Money Talks. And then the following week, we will be doing a book launch, a mini book launch event for my next book called The Super Hungry. The Super Hungry book. We'll be releasing more details on that later this week. But we will be doing, so 2 weeks from today, basically 2 weeks from today, we're going to do a Facebook, Instagram Live where we talk a little bit about the book and just maybe share some of the nuggets within the book itself. So with that, my name is Chef Badu, and I look forward to continuously and consistently delivering you all some content. Thank you.